difficulty, but we've had lots of teenagers helping out today. I had to have Jamie in here earlier helping me with my new camera, and Mary's just had her daughter in helping her with the laptop and technical stuff. But we're there. So hello, the normal 1 o'clock. Hopefully you've all got your coffee and you're all ready. This is my lovely friend Mary Coakley Burns, who I've known now. How old is Aisling?
Well, she was 2. She's 27, so it's 25 years.
25 years I've known Mary.
Yeah.
And long friendship, and a lovely friendship that I value very much. And the reason I've asked Mary to come on today is because Mary is a Cruse, I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? Is it a bereavement counsellor?
Yeah, volunteer. Bereavement volunteer. Yeah.
And coping with loss and the challenges around loss are something that we all encounter in our lives, aren't they? We all lose something or someone of value to us. It's kind of an inevitable part of life. And during this last year, it's almost a year now, during this last year of COVID, we've all lost our normal way of life and all the things that we're used to doing. And especially for artists, with my one-to-one and my mentoring and coaching, we've got a visitor coming in behind us. Who is it?
Sorry, Willie.
You're getting a little visitor. It happens all the time. Dogs, animals, children, husbands, often husbands. We had one, you would laugh, we had one, Sue Jelly, if you're watching. Sue's husband crawled behind her on the floor to get to a plug. I said, there's a man crawling on the floor behind you. These are
I know why my husband's come in, because I robbed his laptop.
He's like, give me my laptop back. See, he's suffering. He's suffering from loss.
He was on the phone, so I didn't have time to tell him I needed to borrow it urgently. There you go.
So he's suffering from loss of something important to him.
Well, he was going to watch me live, but anyway, he can wait till afterwards.
He can go and watch with Katrina upstairs.
Yeah.
So, during this pandemic, as Mary knows, and as most of you watching know, I do lots of one-to-one mentoring and coaching, and I have been dealing with, during the episodic different lockdowns, there's been a lot of discussion about coping techniques, about how to deal with this sense of loss and how to keep yourself on track, and the fact that it ebbs and flows. And I thought I need Mary to come and talk to us about the process that you go through. That's not the same for everyone, but there are similarities. And Mary trains and does a lot of training in grief management, don't you? So I thought you would be the perfect person to come and talk to us about how you recognize this process, how some coping strategies, complicated grief, because some people have lost multiple things, not just their way of life, but then people as well, and the emotional and physical impact. So I'm going to hand over to Mary, and she's going to hopefully talk to us all about all of that, and I'll interject and ask my normal annoying questions as I go.
I might get past the first. I'll see. I'll start talking, but I know we'll get into a conversation.
We will.
Yes, I came to work at Cruse because I had a lot of bereavements myself, and were all so different. Everyone was different, and everyone I coped with in a way, but in a different way, because they all impacted differently. I was at different ages, different times in my life, different relationships. So that's the main thing to remember, that every bereavement and every loss is unique. It's unique to you. But there are similarities. And a lot of people talk about theories and models, and they can be very, very helpful. But they don't, they're not important. If they don't mean something to you, then that's okay, because they are based on what academics have put together from talking to bereaved people. So their source of information is us, the bereaved. So, we can be our own, we can do our own models if we want, but they can be very, very helpful to people. That's the important thing. They can help people to find their way through their own process. But it's not like everything should fit into a model or a theory. It doesn't. So we work in Cruse very person-centered. So we're led by the client. The client is the expert on their bereavement. And what we bring to support them mostly is that we listen. And as they're talking to us about their grief, they're actually listening to themselves as well. And that process allows them to kind of put more sense, or at least understand it a bit better, or maybe see where some of it's coming from, where the complications might be. Because we're all a product of our past. We all got here today from all the things that happened to us. And for every person, that's different. So it may be that something in particular has affected you more because of something that happened, or something you believe, which, was given to you by your past. So sometimes people can, especially, it's funny, but a lot of the clients we get, our clients at Cruse, are clients who've lost their parents, adults who've lost their parents. And you might say, well, in the natural scheme of things, that is probably the least complicated. But actually, it can be very, very difficult for people, because at that point, when they lose their parents, their childhood stops, if you know what I mean. They're no longer a child to anybody. So they often look back at their childhood, and they look at their relationships, and they look at things that made them what they are. And sometimes that process can be it can feel very strange. Why am I suddenly, thinking about all these things that happened to me?
You start processing all that baggage.
Yeah, and it can be a very disconcerting in an adult to suddenly be thrown into, a complete feeling of being lost. So when they come to us, our job really is to listen, to maybe normalize it, to try and make people feel that this is okay to be like that. It's understandable. You're not going mad or anything. This is what grief does, and this is what the process is. And if you can somehow stay with it, then it has a natural way of working itself out. The problems arise when people fight against it, or don't want to engage with it because they don't want the pain. Because, grief is painful. It is painful. So, it's kind of allowing yourself to feel the pain, and allowing yourself also to take a break from the pain. And not always. So you get a different range of people wanting to not engage with their sadness because it scares them and they can't really cope with the feelings, and people who can't get over the feelings and get on with their life. So you get both sides of stuckness. So what we say to people is it's normal to do both. You have to kind of get on with your life, but you also have to feel the sadness. So the most natural thing would be to kind of flip from one to the other. And it could be in a day, it could be in a week, or it could be in years that you flip from one to the other. But that's a natural process, just to allow that to happen. Some days are good days, some days are bad days. And it's fighting against it is what takes a lot of energy, and what scares people the most, really, is just trying not to feel it.
I think we've kind of we kind of had that, haven't we, during this pandemic? And a lot of what you're saying resonates with me. I mean, I've had I lost my father, and that caused me a lot of heartache, is what I would describe it as. And so you have emotional feelings, but you also have physical feelings, don't you, with grief? And I definitely had physical, these extreme, and they come, and I mean, I lost my father 14 years ago now, because Charlie's 13, and I was pregnant with him when my dad died, and I can still feel the pain. I can still feel it now. But you're so right. When, all the time I was trying to fight against, hiding it and I'm doing the English thing. I'm okay. I'm fine. The minute I actually opened the door to it, I collapsed because it overwhelmed. It kind of flooded me and overwhelmed me.
And that's the scary thing. But the thing about feeling overwhelmed is it doesn't always feel that way. You know what I mean? You can the feeling of being overwhelmed by something is pretty scary, but almost as if, if you go back to Carl Rogers, who was the person-centered, the person who talked about working person-centered with people, and he said the irony is when you find you can accept something, that's when you can change. So it's saying, gosh, today is a bad day, or this week's a bad week, or I'm really feeling it. Kind of exploring that, where it is, what the feelings are, and kind of like saying that's okay, because I've lost my father. It's a big thing to lose your parents. And what does that mean for me? And you might find it's about your childhood, it's about stuff, it's about your relationship with your father. It might be things you didn't say, things you did say, all those things. And you will work it out, but you won't always feel overwhelmed. The overwhelmed is often more in the beginning for people, or if they've shut it down, when it comes back, it feels overwhelming because they've held it down for so long. So it kind of pushes back at a stronger, it becomes stronger by being held down.
Yeah, I definitely felt that, that because I'd held it inside myself and I hadn't honoured it and allowed it to be, that when I did, kind of, my guard was down and I wasn't looking. That's how I describe it. My guard was down and I wasn't looking, and it came and got me, and I had to deal with it. And I'm very glad I did deal with it. And obviously I had you in my life at that time very happily, and helping with some of that, and likening that to lockdown, these lockdowns that I know. The first lockdown was during springtime, and it was all new and novel, wasn't it? And as much as it was like, oh, this is really trying, it was also, the weather was okay, and it was get outside, and it was a novelty as well. You had the novelty factor of, oh, we've never experienced anything like this. Now we're in lockdown 3. I've definitely started to feel a sense of grieving of my normal life of, I thought I could kind of tolerate it and it would be all right and allow those feelings. And I wonder, I definitely have had some emotional and physical sensations during this lockdown 3 that I could liken to a bit of grief, I have to say. And I wonder what you have to say about that as we come, hopefully, as we'll come out of this one. And Boris was saying that he can't promise there won't be another one, but he's going to try his absolute best. Please, Boris, come on now.
Well, it's ironic, is it? Because when people come for grief to us for support in a death of somebody they care about, or somebody that they have a close relationship with, that's the one thing we can't do. We can't change what happened.
No.
And we can't change what has happened. But the thing is, we can work with how we feel about it. And that can really change it, if you know what I mean. You can't change the facts, but you can change how you feel about it. And one of the things that happens with grief is that, funny enough, people talk about, I can't see a future, because in your subconscious, that person would have always been in your life. Subconsciously, they were part of your future, as well as your present and your past. So when you lose somebody, for a while, your future kind of disappears, because you don't know what it's like, because that person's gone out of it. So people often can't imagine a future. And we don't realize how much we have our future in our head all the time. Subconsciously, we all have a future, even though it's not guaranteed or anything. But and so when we lose it first, it can be feel very dark and, very scary. And I think for lockdowns, not having a future, not having a time when we could think this will all be over. I think at first I don't know about you, but I felt like we do this now and we'll be all right in a few months. Or, we'll escape from it all. We're doing the right thing. And so it's harder and harder to do that as time goes on. But I do think there is a bit. Oops,
sorry, it's all right. It's Paul's mechanics over there. I don't think the world is going to end. It's okay.
we have a little bit of light from the vaccination program. There is some light coming in. So,
I think that
The thing about
concept of
grief,
stealing your future is really interesting. I, you know, in because that's what I'm seeing with the artist, is that because an artist's life is very centered around applying for exhibitions, taking part in art fairs, taking part in exhibitions. It's all in the real world. And we tell them to set their goals, to have a schedule of things that they're going to apply to set their intentions and start manifesting that, visualize, they're very creative, visualization. And all of a sudden in March, every art fair was cancelled, every exhibition was cancelled. There was no point applying to everything because no one was taking any applications. And I think you may have hit the nail on the head. I think that is a really interesting concept of the loss of your future. And then when you can be quite optimistic about it in the short term, you think, oh, we're doing this and it's going to be over. But now we actually don't know when we can start behaving like that again. When can you start? I know after the first lockdown, we started doing the exhibitions again. And they were only up for like 2 months. And I think we managed one very small event. And then we had to lock them down again and we haven't reopened them. And yeah, I think that concept of losing your future when our world is set up with this goal setting, isn't it? It's set your goals, have SMART goals, set your intentions, manifest, and you can't do any of that because you're in the unknown. Your future is unknown at the moment. You don't know when that's all going to start.
And I'm sure you've heard about the concept of, where people have to reimagine their future. So you have to create a new normal, because your normal that was before you lost the person or the thing no longer exists either. So you're a new normal, because even if when we get out of the pandemic that we are in now, we'll never forget the fact that we can have a pandemic and life can change very quickly. So so our new normal is different from our old normal.
But as you say, it's reimagining your future now, isn't it? So what that's something a process that you go through, reimagining the future, accepting the fact that's gone. We're never, as you say, even though all these things will come back in the fullness of time, we will always have a muscle memory that reminds us that could be taken away again. So what things and techniques and coping mechanisms and tools do you bring in? Tricky question, I know.
Where's the magic wand?
I can see your face going, Lesley, stop asking that question. What is it? How would you reimagine your future? Thinking about this, how do we reimagine our future, accepting that we have the muscle memory, and we'll always have the muscle memory now, that this could happen again?
Well, that's the individual thing about it, isn't it? That is it. And and you can do that, as I said, when you accept, when you kind of say, well, this is what's happened. So where do we go from here? And I guess that is when they talk about acceptance, people think, oh, you accept that it happened. Yeah. That sounds like I approve of it. I don't approve of it. The same as you lost somebody. You'll never accept that it was right that person's no longer there. But you accept that it happened, and you accept that your life has changed because it happened. And once you kind of come to terms with that, then you can and will. Like, we're resourceful. We're amazingly resourceful. Humans are amazing. And clients come to me and tell me how weak they are, or how vulnerable they feel, and how they haven't got the energy or they haven't got the thought. And I'm thinking, oh wow, look at what you're doing already. Look how much you've done already. Look how much you've adapted. Look how much sort of energy you've put into helping other people and doing things, and you're telling me you can't do it, and yet I can see that you can. And so that's really the next step, is holding the kind of the hope that I see when I'm talking to people, trying to allow them to see that in themselves, because we can, that's why part of being human is being adaptable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Jane was just saying you don't have to reimagine it completely, and absolutely not.
No.
Actually, what you do is you look back and you see, you understand your values and you understand your aspirations and desires, and then you go back into your resources and see what you've got to resource your future. So you go back and have a little look and you go, okay, I have to accept that that is not going to happen now, but I know I've experienced similar things to this before, and I've got this whole bag of resources that I can now go in and pick out. It's like when someone's made redundant and they say, well, I'm never going to work again. You say, no, hang on a minute. What skills did you use to do that job?
And
Now
they're yours still.
they're yours. You haven't lost the skills and you haven't lost the experience. And it's the same with this, isn't it? You have all that skill and experience and resources inside of you. They're yours. You own them. And so you can dig in there and create this new normal using some of that, and then setting some new intentions based on what it is you would now like to achieve. And we've done that, you know, by doing this digital stuff. And you know, I want to see people. I want to go and experience exhibitions again. But actually, the blended approach of what I've experienced by experience this new normal of, you know, you live in Buckinghamshire, I live in Sussex now. We used to live next door to each other. And, you know, we've known each other for 25 years and the connection is strong. And we used to have to meet in London, or I'd come and see you when I was driving past and what have you. But now the opportunities, now we're able to use Zoom and all these are amazing, are incredible. And, you know, like your daughter, Katrina, finished her degree and her master's during this lockdown time. And she's still got a job. She still managed to get a job, even though she's never, and that's working from home, never worked out in the world of work apart from, you know, her
student jobs.
Yeah, her student jobs. So humans are incredibly resourceful, aren't they? And resilient.
Yeah, and find ways to do things. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but I found two things I found out. That first of all, you never be truly indispensable. You're never truly indispensable in any cog, in any wheel. But also that people find their way around things is when I had 2 bouts of maternity leave, and I had these jobs where I thought I was really important and I had a really good function within the cog of the it was in the diagnostics industry, you know, I worked in that.
Yeah.
So laboratory testing and that. And I had a job that I felt was very robust. And so much so, I don't think I had 2 lots of maternity leave. So they didn't really replace me as such. But when I came back, everybody said to me, oh yeah, we don't do it like that. We've always done it like this. And I'm going, like, I was only gone 5 months. And so I realized 2 things. One is the world closes up and, you know, and people find ways of doing things when you're missing, but also that like you can fight your way back in and reestablish. So like everybody does adapt, and they adapt very quickly. I was only gone a matter of months, and people were genuinely honest in their head when they said to me, we've never done it. We've always done it. No, they didn't say we've never done it like that. We've always done it like this. And that was without me there. So they'd found a way of doing what I did and found a way around it.
Yeah.
So I realized then that, first of all, never to get too uptight about a particular job, you know, that your skills can go anywhere, but also to realize that actually we're all just cogs and everybody will make their own way. None of us are so important that other people won't carry on without us either. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
well, I think it is. It's helpful in that you don't become too obsessional.
Yeah.
Don't get too obsessed, because obsessing is also not a healthy thing to do. A lot of people are mentioning dogs in the sidebar, and how
is this in terms of
grief. Yeah, and how important. How important animals are. And I know You know, you and I have both experienced this personally, the loss of extreme loss around an animal. And I lost my dog Tilly a couple of years ago, and it was I was on, it just took me over the edge. Paul said he never wanted, my husband, for anyone who doesn't know that, never wanted us to have another animal because he didn't want to watch me suffer that in that way again. And we have got another dog, obviously, because I couldn't imagine my future without one. And I know you've experienced that as well.
Well, the thing is, because I was already in bereavement support when I lost my dog, I kind of had to, one, I experienced the loss, but second of all, I was looking at myself experiencing the loss, and it is a huge physical loss. And I still, to this day, I have another dog as well, and I still miss my dog that I, you know, Chipper, because we had him from a pup, and I got him when Katrina was only 3. So we're talking 20 years ago, and he died at 11. So but I physically missed that dog, and I didn't realize how much and how every part of my life, like when I left the house, the dog, I never thought the dog was minding the house, but the house felt insecure because I was leaving it behind completely empty with no dog in it. I would sit and I would have to pretend that I was kind of reaching out to pet something, like I'm physically missed. But the thing I didn't have was the dog didn't have expectations of their life. The dog lived in the present. So I didn't feel sorry for I can't explain it, but the dog, the psychological part of missing a human being and their presence, but also for them, you grieve for them, their loss of life. They've lost their lives. So it was a hugely more bigger thing for obviously to use a human, but a dog was a very, very still a very physical loss, more physical than psychological. I don't know if that explains it, but it was a grief, but it was confined to my grief, my physical loss.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because they're living in the present, and they're not articulating, and they didn't plan their future, did they? They didn't have goals.
Holiday planned.
No, exactly. They didn't have goals and futures.
They were going to see their friend the following week and whatever. They wouldn't see their grandchildren or whatever. You see.
Yeah.
They didn't have all of that, which you have in a person when you lose somebody.
Yeah. But
you grieve for their loss.
Yeah.
Your loss of them and their loss of their life. So it's a much simpler thing, but it's still very deep.
Definitely. It's still a processing, isn't it? And it still is adding to our, I think, losing animals and those that happens obviously more frequently because they don't live as long a lives as us, is our opportunities to understand how to cope. And I said to Paul, actually, and I got Ted, the replacement dog, in 2019, and I said to him, no, I'll be fine. I understand that I'm going to feel that pain again, but it's okay, because I don't want to live my life without an animal, or a dog. So I've accepted that, and that was a great learning for me, and actually that really helped me in my processing of lockdown and Paul's processing of lockdown, because I had the grief feeling when they locked us down, and I was like, I can't run my workshops, I can't run my exhibitions, I can't do the job of serving my artist community in the way that I know how to do. But actually that memory of going, that's okay, how can you do it, and reimagining it clicked in really quickly within 24 hours. And I do attribute that to having had those experiences of loss and working out how to manage myself and manage that experience. So a bit like you said, you can't lock down the grief and not experience it. Trying to avoid grief as well is a ridiculous notion. He wanted me to avoid, you know Paul, he wanted me to avoid a possibility of heartache. He wanted to protect me.
I remember when I have another dog, Dave. I'll say his name, but and that thing about replacing, he wasn't a replacement. He was another dog in my life, but I still miss my dog, my Chipper. I still miss Chipper, and I let myself miss him at times, because I think that's fine. That's okay. Why wouldn't I? He was in my life for 11 years, but I saw him from being a pup to being an adult, and it was very sad and upsetting when he went. And there are just small examples, which is why in my youth, because I'm quite I have a few years behind me now, but that's why parents,
we all have, Mary.
parents used to buy pets for their children, so that children could experience a loss and could practice, or have an experience of how to deal with it, like talking about the loss and what you do and how you remember it, and all of those are all ways of teaching children how to grieve.
Well, that's interesting.
Because a lot of times parents don't want their children to see grief at all, and then you think, well, how the hell is a child ever going to know? And sometimes then, when they have their first loss, I do know that, like, somebody whose first loss was their dog, and luckily they learned from that, because when they lost their parents, that was obviously a huge grief, but they had somehow had a bit of practice. If it had been the other way around, if they'd never lost, and they had said they'd never lost anything until they lost their dog, it really did help, I know. But that's what parents used to do, buy pets so that you could learn how to lose them as well.
Especially in our house, we lost many a budgie and a tortoise. We physically lost them. The tortoise would run off. We'd get calls from the local corner shop. It'd be like, I think we've got your tortoise again. Oh yes, it's run off again. We had a few budgies.
We had a budgie. I lost a cat. I lost a dog, a couple of dogs. Yeah, all before I was a teenager.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. I had never thought about it in the concept of they're a training, but they are, aren't they? They help us understand how to process these experiences, and that's really important for children to experience that, because often the next fundamental loss they'll experience is probably a grandparent, which is huge. And having given a bit of training, so it is you have to, it's a natural process of life. We have to lose stuff. We've lost a way of life at the moment, and we're all experiencing that and having a bit of muscle memory about all these training grounds we've been on. I wonder what you would say about some of the processes we need to consider as we come out the other side of this. What kind of strategies?
The irony is, while we're all in kind of the same boat, people feel slightly less lonely about it. Yeah. And grief, if you're grieving and everybody else is happy, then that can be a lot lonelier for people. So from Cruse's point of view, we are kind of expecting to get maybe more calls after we come out of lockdown than we are during lockdown, and because people will have had very disruptive sort of grief, if you like, processes, like funerals are not as they were, people aren't being able to be together in hospital, and so there's a lot of things that people will need to process, but they're kind of not doing it now because they have enough to deal with. So we think that after lockdown lifts, we will be needed. So we're training up a lot of new people at the moment so that we have plenty of people available. And because we're doing, sorry, I've gone on to talking about Cruse.
No, that's good.
Because we're doing telephone support as well, it means that we're not got this sort of, like a postcode thing, because, for example, we've got a lot of volunteers here in Bucks, but other parts of the country don't have many. So we're hoping that will help to spread it out if we continue to do either phone or face-to-face is better. You know, it is better, but phone is good. We've realized it, that people work very well on the phone or on Zoom. So we found that, like, you know, people, if the support's good, it doesn't really matter how it's been given, you know, what form we're using. And as you say, we've learned something new from lockdown. But the thing is, I think that people will probably find that their emotions will be feel a little bit more unique to them, which may then make them feel less maybe connected to others, where everybody else is celebrating the end of lockdown. They're coming out going, but I haven't got I haven't got the things I had when I started. I've still lost them. They haven't come back. So there might be, so it's just talk about it, you know, just, you know, talk to each other about it. Allow yourself to feel, actually, no, I would love life to return to normal, but it actually is not the normal I would like, you know, or it's not the way I want. Because
as you say, normally the grief is quite unique to you, and you're just like quite a local, you know, 2 or 3 other people, quite a tight group, isn't it? And in this instance, we've had a collective grief across the whole world because it's a pandemic. So you do feel you're like part of this massive thing, and we are all talking, and there's lots of routes for communication online. And as you say, when this passes, some of those will stop. So I have put the link to the Cruse website at the bottom here. It says visit the Cruse website. Please do go in and have a look at that, guys. I'm going to just do a quick screen share so people can see that. Hang on a sec. There we go. Share, so you can see what that screen looks like. So that's Cruse there when you arrive on the screen, and there's lots of things on here about grief, the helpline, and as you were saying, the local services, Mary.
Yeah.
And then for parents, and then there's free booklets. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And practicalities. Yeah, and useful links.
We are voluntary, so all the services are free. I mean, we do rely on clients, you know, to donate, obviously. But, you know, COVID has helped a little bit with funding, because people have realized that support is important. So we have, you know, quite good funding at the moment, but it's temporary. But what we provide is free. You know, like most of the on the ground supporters, like the supporters are volunteers like myself. I am a trained counsellor, but I volunteer for Cruse. But the helpline is good as well, because you can ring up and talk like anytime, you know, on the helpline.
So that's one there. And you just touched on this. You're a volunteer, so people can actually get involved and help as well. So you can volunteer, you can donate, do some fundraising.
We train up our volunteers to be bereavement support volunteers. So, you know, you'll get all the training you need.
So if someone were looking for something, there you go. If someone were looking to do something different after this, and that was something that resonates with them, then sorry, you were going to say.
I was going to say, people might say, people have said to me, like, how do you do that? That's going to be awful. And I said, well, actually, it's not, because I'm actually talking to somebody about their life. I'm not talking to, you know, they've lost somebody, but we're talking about their life and the impact on them and how they can carry on their life, because they're precious. The person, you know, the client is precious, they're important, so we're trying to help them. So for me, it's very a positive thing. It's, you know, we stay with the grief. I'm not going to force somebody to not grieve, but we hold hope for them that their life, you know, they'll get it back on track, or in a way that suits, you know, they will be able to redo their life, or re-engage with their life.
I love that expression, you know, we hold hope for them. It's like we're holding hope for everyone now. It will be fine. We will get through this. We have no choice. We hold, you know, holding the hope. I think visualizing the holding of the hope is actually a really lovely thing. So you know that we're going to come out the other side of it. You know you're going to be fine. You know you're going to have some muscle memory, but holding the hope. I love that, Mary. Thank you.
Well, that's what we do. And you know, so all we can say to people is it won't always feel as bad as it does when they come to talk to us. But
yeah,
you know, we do know it helps for people to share and to talk and to work through, and that they will work out what they need to do. And we're just kind of holding them while they do that, or helping them, to giving them a framework in which, or at least time even, just, you know, to think about it.
And you said at the beginning that you're someone who experienced quite a lot of grief. Do you find, because you've experienced a lot of grief in your life, that being a volunteer for Cruse is a positive experience for you?
Oh, it is, definitely. Oh, definitely it is. That's what I'm saying, that when people say to me, it must be very hard. It is hard to listen. But for me, knowing that that's helping somebody, that means that I feel actually quite positive, and I don't know, it energizes me. It makes me feel good that I've been able to listen and hold somebody while they're maybe in their darkest hour, knowing that they will come out of that. And yeah, so no, I find it a very positive thing to support people.
Yeah, so supporting each other, I think, is a really important thing as we come out of this listening.
We run groups, you know, and it's amazing. Like, we just facilitate these groups, and we get groups of bereaved people who come together, and it's amazing how they help each other, and how one person might found a way that another person thinks, actually, I never thought of that, I'll try that. Or somebody else says, oh, I can do this, but I can't do that. And then somebody says, oh, no, I can do that, but I can't do this bit. Or even like, yeah, I felt that way, but then I realized, or, you know, who knows what they learn from each other. But whatever they do, they help each other tremendously. And our job is just to allow it to happen, you know, to make it safe so that it can happen. And people can help each other. So groups are good as well, you know, support groups.
Yes. Yeah, I think as a community, that's something that these talks have been really helpful. They're diverse, and we talk about all sorts of things, because the more you talk and you get all of these shared experiences, there might just be one little thing in there for one person, and that's all that matters, that you find the one thing that shows a different perspective, a different viewpoint. Because, you know, we had a guy on last week talking about personality, and the differences in your adaptive personality to your innovative personality. And I'm an innovator. You won't be surprised. I chuck the baby out with the bathwater, you know I do, which is why I had this habit of moving house quite regularly. I've managed to get over that, because instead of just adapting, I just go, well, let's just chuck it up and change it all again. And that's my approach to things. And so when I'm talking to people, my instinct brings the innovator out to give them a solution, or to give myself a solution. And that isn't always the right solution. So being within a community means that an adapter will comment. You know, we've had all those comments about losing a dog, which was really interesting. That's what comes out of a community. So yeah, keep in touch with people, talking, keep the doors open, questioning, listen, because you might hear something that not only you can hear someone's in pain and might need some help, but also you might hear something that helps you along the way.
And just sharing your experience is, you know, good for other people. Like, a lot of people, I suppose, finding a place where it's okay to share your pain, because a lot of people feel they don't want to burden anybody with their pain, but actually it can be a gift to somebody, because that allows them to then share with you. So, you know, that is, you know, can be tremendous for each other to share.
See, you bring all these positive words, don't you? Holding hope, sharing your
I hope
feelings.
It doesn't sound like a cliche.
No, you don't. But it's perfect, isn't it? It's like you're giving the gift of optimism and experience and accepting something back. So that is an exchange of gifts. And in our capitalist world, we always think these gifts have to be material, but they don't. We give the gift of listening and time and shared experience, and that's what you and I do when we chat. We have a good natter and share our experiences and come away feeling better, even if there wasn't even a purpose to the conversation as a structure. And that's what you do with friends, isn't it? And that's the benefit of community, and that's the benefit of these amazing organizations like Cruse. I know there's this month that I think in Sussex we've got a great charity called St Michael's Hospice, and it looks after people who are terminal ill, etc., and provides support. And they're doing a fitness activity right through February, and everyone can get involved, and it's all on screen, and you can chat and away. And I just think, what a great idea, because everyone can feel like they're helping, but they're also part of a community, a gathering together. So no, I think that's the sense of togetherness is great. But as you say, we have to be aware that as the lockdown eases, everyone's going to start experiencing things at a different rate and a different momentum. And some artists who are used to art fairs, they probably will take longer than the artists who are just used to creating their own exhibition or a small local exhibition. So it's being considerate and caring, and understanding that the coming out of lockdown won't be linear for everybody. It won't be a linear experience for the world. It'll be very unique, and just be kind to each other. Thank you, Mary.
And I just wanted to say the lovely thing that artists can do is, because people do have difficulties in expressing themselves and expressing their emotions, and people can feel things, but they can't name it, or they can't really put a form on it. They don't know what it is. So art can be great for that, for people seeing something and it appeals to them. It kind of says something. It suddenly means something, and it expresses something that maybe they can't put into words. So artists contribute that for other people. When they see your art, you've expressed yourself in your art, and it could be that is perfect for somebody else. It says something to them which they couldn't do themselves. So that's like sharing, isn't it?
Yeah, artists are really important. They're really important in the ecosystem of our world, and we really need them. And they have struggled during this time, because many artists haven't set themselves up as businesses, and so therefore they have had no support, no financial support, but they're really important in the ecosystem, as you correctly point out, because they trade in emotion. So they're using all their emotion and all their experiences and putting that out in whatever medium they choose to work in. So yeah, they help people through the grief process and articulating their feelings.
When I lost my best friend from college, she died when we were only in our 30s. And I found this painting of a chair with a beautiful blue dressing gown on the back of it, and it was beside an open window. And I bought it for myself, and I have it, and it's her. She's sitting, and she's left the chair behind, but I remember her, and to me that was a wonderful thing to find, because it meant I didn't lose. When I look at it now, nobody else knows that. When they look at it, they will see whatever they see, but I see her absence. And so art can be it was very meaningful. I'm very grateful to whoever painted that painting, which I can't remember, sorry, but
we'll make you go and get it in a minute.
It's beautiful. Get that off the wall in the bedroom upstairs, and it means so much to me. No, it's too big. But you know what I mean? So
yeah, no, absolutely.
You can be somebody's very important to somebody. Somebody
absolutely
else,
Yeah, we find that a lot with collectors will buy for significant birthdays or significant moments in their life, and those paintings or etchings or photographs, whatever it is that they purchase, sculptures, have deep meaning for them, and it's incredibly important. So we really need the artists, so we need you to carry on. So we're here hopefully providing information and, you know,
expressing those lovely emotions. Yeah,
exactly. Keep doing it. And we don't, you know, there are systems and community there for you to get involved with so that it can protect you. We did have a question. Let me just pop this up. So Jane Caudry, it's interesting saying about letting you feel the pain, but it's really frightening to let that pain in when you are in lockdown and responsible for keeping your family buoyant. Does this spell trouble ahead for when lockdown eases? Very good question, Jane. What do you think about that, Mary?
Well, the thing is, like, why, you know, I can understand that is what parents often do, put their grief on hold so that, you know, they can support their family. And but at the same time, I always think, well, how do the family, your children, learn how to grieve or learn how to deal with loss? They're dealing with loss if you don't show them. In other words, like, if I am very upset and I explain to my family that I'm upset because of what's happened, then they think, yeah, I can see that's upsetting, and I can see, and then say, right, now, come on, let's make the dinner, or let's go and do something nice. Let's go for a walk. Well, you've suddenly taught them two things. One, it's okay to feel sad, and two, it's okay then to get up and do something, because the children are very good at that. They're very good at recovering. You know, people think it's because they don't, you know, feel deeply. They do, but they will distract themselves very quickly with something else. So you're kind of helping them to see that that's okay. It's okay to be really upset, but then to actually then go off and do something, you know, to help yourself, to make yourself feel a little better, to distract yourself from that, to say, oh gosh, it's just because I really miss my mum today. Okay, that's really sad, but let's just go and let's do something. My mum likes flowers. Let's go out and pick some flowers or in the garden.
Yeah. So Jane's saying, yes, that's what you're right. It's role modeling, isn't it? We do have a responsibility to role model. My husband said to me earlier, because we were talking about these camera things, and he said, you were really stressed. And I said, yes, but at least now I tell you I'm stressed. Now I say, this is really making me feel stressed. And he said, it's because it's out of your comfort zone and you're out of control. I said, I am, and you're right, and it could go wrong. And so I'm feeling stressed. And now I'm saying that, and Jamie was stood here listening because he was helping me with the camera stress. And you're role modeling this. You know, it's okay to say this out loud. It doesn't make you less of a person. It just makes
more of a person.
Makes you more of
a real person.
Yeah. And this whole social media and everything is over the last, like, how many years? I don't know. Is it 10 or is it 15 now? Makes me feel very old. However long social media has been going on, has created this homogenized world of perfection. And that's not real. That's not real. We are real people. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Role model the right way to deal with this. If you're in a situation, it is really frightening, and you can feel really frightened. How are you going to deal with that and show that to your children? You know, again, we go back to that, how, you know, showing them through how to lose a pet, and you know, role modeling positively like that. Thank you so much, Mary. That has been brilliant.
That's all right.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
I think it's been absolutely great. You know, highlighted some things that I think we don't talk about enough. I think we need to talk about them. We need to be much more open about talking about grief, and especially now, because as you say, as we come out of lockdown, we're all going to experience this differently. And so if we're having an open conversation about it now, people will know where to go. You know, there are people there is Cruse, there are other places that people can go to. Katrina's saying, thank you both. What an interesting and open session. You're welcome. That's Katrina, is Mary's daughter. And,
yeah. Oh, good. She didn't put me in the soundproof box then.
She listened to us, and no, I think it's really important to role model and have a really open conversation about this now, because this is going to be very pertinent in a couple of months' time. And Mary, I think you're going to be very busy, but I know people are in incredibly safe hands with you.
Oh,
so
gosh,
thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. You're more than welcome. So we'll see. We're going to go off now. Later on this afternoon, or this evening, 6:45 this evening, I'm interviewing Tabish Khan, the Londonist art critic. So hopefully some of you will still not be eating your dinner and come back. That'll be quite a different conversation. Although I feel that there'll be some similarities, because Tabish has experienced that whole close down of all of his normal life through, he's an art critic and he can't go to exhibitions. So I should think there'll be some crossover. And then who have we got next week? So we've got Tabish this afternoon. And then next week, you might like this one, Mary. We've got Dr. Ancheri, who's a Ayurvedic doctor, talking about your how to look after yourself from an Ayurvedic medicine perspective, so a naturalistic perspective now, both in lockdown, under stress, and as we kind of emerge from lockdown. So yeah, come back, listen. All of these can be seen on Catch Up. We've been live streaming onto YouTube and onto Facebook, so hopefully lots of people have had lots of interesting dialogue there. And I'll see you all later. Thanks, Mary. I'll catch up with you in a little while. All right, take care. Bye.